In my 4th year, I get a letter from my dean saying, Mr. Abdullah, I have this unique pleasure of letting you know that you're on the dean's list while you're still on probation.
This is how you found your internship?
Yes.
By ringing doorbells and asking, घर किसने बनाया?
Yes. रमज़ानों में half of Dubai used to be in Pakistan, mostly in Karachi.
अब उल्टा होता है.
अब उल्टा हो गया. While you are young, देखो हर एक कोई चैंपियन नहीं बनेगा. पाकिस्तान टीम में 13-14 ही होते हैं जी, पूरे मुल्क से. तो आप कहें जी मुझे क्रिकेटर बनना है, वो काफ़ी नहीं है भाई.
Hello and welcome everyone to DigiTales. My name is Faizan Sayyed, founder and CEO of East River, and today I have an extremely esteemed guest जिन्होंने इस शहर में, कराची में और इस मुल्क में जितनी contributions की हैं, बहुत कम ही लोग हैं जिन्होंने इतनी ज़्यादा contributions की हैं और जितना इन्होंने impact create किया है अपनी contributions के साथ, और उसकी हम बात करेंगे. आपने सुना होगा TCF का, The Citizens Foundation, आपने सुना होगा हुनर फाउंडेशन का, आपने सुना होगा किडनी सेंटर का, आपने ज़रूर सुना होगा Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture. He was one of the main founders of these institutions. He studied at the Karachi Grammar School, class of 1964. शिकागो में उन्होंने जाके फिर आर्किटेक्चर पढ़ा और आज मेरे साथ बैठे हुए हैं शाहिद अब्दुल्ला साहब. कैसे हैं आप? ठीक हैं?
थैंक यू. बहुत कुछ कह दिया.
आपने बहुत कुछ किया है, कहना था, ज़रूरी था. मुझे ये बताएं सबसे पहले तो, आप एक बिजनेस फैमिली में पैदा हुए थे, दिल्ली वाला फैमिली, आई अंडरस्टैंड
जी.
दिल्ली वाला बिजनेस फैमिली में टिपिकली लोग आर्किटेक्चर की तरफ नहीं जाते, लेकिन आप और आपके भाई ने मिल के एक आर्किटेक्चर डिज़ाइन कंपनी क्रिएट की दैट हैज़ क्रिएटेड सम ऑफ द आइकॉन्स ऑफ पाकिस्तान. डोलमन मॉल आप लोगों का बना हुआ है, MCB टावर कराची में, लाहौर में भी आपका बना हुआ है. ऑब्वियसली इंडस वैली की पूरी बिल्डिंग आपने इस शहर के एक कोने से उठा के दूसरे कोने में लेके गए थे. हाउ डज अ बिजनेस फैमिली, लेट्स से चाइल्ड, end up like this?
Well, you're absolutely right. My entire family and cousins and uncles and everybody is in business. We had a large business base where my brothers were there, and of course, बचपन से we both Arshad and I, we used to tinker a lot. We just were very interested in making things, and we had a little toolbox where we used to do carpentry and do and any new thing that used to come to the house, we had to open it and see how it works. My eldest brother actually got into उनको कुछ शौक हुआ कि that I will do some poultry farming. So he went and got some incubators where he used to hatch eggs. But that incubator took only 50 eggs. So I told Arshad, I said, yaar, why don't we make one? We shall take 100 eggs, So anyway, we made that. So half the eggs got fried. और मगर 8-10 बच्चे निकल गए उसमें. My father was a lot into making changes in our houses, कि कमरा बना दिया, उसको प्लास्टर करा दिया, उसको कोई गार्डन के अंदर एक फाउंटेन बन रहा है, तो so there were constant mysteries coming to the house, and we were just very interested कि यार, how do they do this and how do they do that, and very, very curious about every construction that went on in the house. And of course, we then took their tools and also started making some things ourselves. कि उसकी आरी ले ली, उसका हथौड़ी ले ली, then hammer and nail, and making our own things. And so one of my cousins, like my Taya's son, he was very fond of us, and so he told my father, these two should become architects. Nobody knew what an architect was at that time, because it was always the engineer saab coming to the house. So my father said, whatever they want to be. So we were the two youngest in the family. We were 8, 4 sisters, 4 brothers.
That's a big family.
Everybody had big families in those days, and we all came from Delhi.
Right.
And my uncles and uh, everybody had 6, 7 kids, 8 kids. So as we grew up a little more, so we said, yeah, we need to have an internship somewhere, that which was the order of the day, at least in our brotherly, कि भाई आपको कहीं ना कहीं जाके शागिर्दगी करनी ज़रूरी है.
किस उम्र पे?
Maybe 15, 14, 15, 16, I started looking at interior design, and there were not too many interior designers in the city.
And this is now early 70s.
Yeah. So Habib Ali had already started his practice when I was leaving for. तो मैं वो शागिर्दगी की बात कर रहा था, तो we went around DHA phase 1 बन रहा था उस वक्त.
ये होगा late 60s में, early 70s में.
Late 60s, 65, 66, something like that. So we drove around there and we saw a very unusual house there. And then went around another lane and we saw another very unusual house, which was not the run of the mill. So we went there, rang the bell, and he said, Yaar, who is the architect for this? Now we are looking for somebody where we can intern.
This is how you found your internship?
Yes.
By ringing doorbells and asking, घर किसने बनाया?
Yes. So both the houses were designed by this one architect, called Pyarali. So he said, Yaar, it's a Dakyanusi naam, he can't be doing something so cool, Anyway, so we found out where he was. He was working for this company called Noon Qayyum and Company, who were 2 army majors,
right,
who started an architecture and engineering firm. And they ended up getting all the government projects.
Right.
Whether it was the Babda House or whether it was the PNSC building or whether it was...
They had the right credentials.
the State Bank of Pakistan, National Bank building. So he was working there. So Arshad joined him there. Then while Arshad was working there, Pyarali decided to quit and start his own practice. So anyway, so we were both in grammar school. Arshad used to go to Noon Qayyum and I was still a little young, and then Arshad left for IIT, and I then started going to Pyarali's office, which is where our office is right now. So I used to walk from grammar school, raste mein kahin lunch kar diya, and came here and worked till. That's where I learned my drafting. That's where, so obviously there were no computers at that time, so you learned how to sharpen a pencil, and you learned how to work with a rapidograph and stencils and all that. And Pyarali became very fond of us because we were different. Ek to we came from grammar school, and Pyarali's background was that he was in Uganda. He was from the Ismaili community. And he said the Aga Khan told him that I think you should go to Pakistan and try to improve the architecture out there. Now, when Pyarali came here, he did not know a word of Urdu. He could speak English and he could speak Swahili and French and...
But he was of Pakistani descent?
No.
He was not Pakistani
But
descent?
he was Asian.
He was Asian. अच्छा, तो he was an immigrant to Pakistan?
Yes, yes.
और यहाँ पे आके वो architecture कर रहे हैं?
हाँ, because Aga Khan had told him,
Because
go there and
interesting,
try
fascinating.
to do this. And he really changed the face of architecture when he came here. And so, I hate to say, but a lot of the good architects at that time really got hit by Pyarali because his work was very different and people started just going to Pyarali. So I started interning there and obviously never expected any pay. आप जब इंटर्न कर रहे होते हैं तो आपको कोई पैसे वैसे नहीं मिलते.
आजकल के इंटर्न्स कुछ और एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं.
आज is very different. You have to pay them something, at least for their transportation
Right.
or some pocket money, which is, I think, good. So worked there for 2 years, and I got admission at University of Illinois. बस वहाँ चले गए. तो worked is usually a 5-year program where you get your bachelor's. I took 6 years. I wasn't very good at any other subjects except architecture. I was just getting straight A's in architecture and straight D's in everything else. In fact, in my 4th year, I get a letter from my dean saying, Mr. Abdullah, I have this unique pleasure of letting you know that you're on the dean's list while you're still on probation. Just hilarious. I said, yeah, who's looking at my degree or my numbers?
Right.
So anyway, वो किसी तरह वो धक्का पास हो गए वहाँ से.
और फिर वापस आके फिर आपने
No,
ASA
I worked there for a year.
अच्छा, you worked there.
After that, Arshad also worked for a year out there. But the intention was never to stay behind.
Right.
Never. Or
तो
in
दिल
fact,
यहीं रहा आपका.
yeah, in fact, a lot of our friends who went with us, they are still there.
Right.
And तो 40-50 साल हो गए तो वहीं है वो. So we came back and we did some good work. Pyarali was here and we continued. अच्छा, every summer vacation we used to come here. अब 2-3 महीने की vacation होती थी. अब 1-2 दिन बाद यार, you had nothing to do. There were no cell phones, there was no computer, there was no TV at that time. So 2-3 दिन आप मिल के रिश्तेदारों से, we ended up at Pyarali's. Just walked in, यार we are here. And we found a place and we started working. So every time we went there, we were a little better than the previous year. And Pyarali started enjoying us. So Arshad graduated a year before me. And a year and a half, I forget. Anyway, so he came and he joined Pyarali. For a year, Pyarali didn't pay him anything. One day he called him and he said, yeah, Arshad, I don't know how to say this, but I don't know what to pay you. I will pay you very little or I will pay you too much. Why don't you become my partner? You know. So anyway,
at that young age.
Yeah.
And you were probably at that
20s,
time,
yeah.
20s, 24 probably.
So Arshad became a partner out there. And Arshad was handling the entire office. And he was methodical, he was very good architect. And then Uswat, there was Idi Amin, who one day got this mad idea that he wants to throw everybody out. All the Asians. I don't want any Asian here. So Pyarali's parents also had to leave Uganda. And they went to Canada. I think a lot of those Ismailis went to Canada at that time. Pyarali said, I have to go and see how my parents are doing. So Arshad, I want you to handle the office while I'm gone. So I said, fine. He was handling it anyway. So he went there and never came back. And it was...
So he just left his entire setup behind.
Entire setup. Now, a lot of the people were senior to Arshad. So when they heard Pyarali is not coming back, they really gave us a rough time. I mean, when I came, I joined in. Anyway, so these guys, they really played dirty with us.
But essentially, you're saying that wo jo business tha is what continued on to become ASA.
Well, yes and no. You see, a lot of the clients, they just walked out. कि Pyarali is not here.
Right.
New clients used to walk in. He was the Frank Lloyd Wright here.
Right.
You know, where's Frank Lloyd Wright? And you say he's gone.
Right.
When is he coming back? He said, I don't know. Who are you? He said, we are his partners. Oh, acha, junior partners. And they used to walk out. So that name really hurt us. While maybe a lot of people think कि यार
इसी नाम पे चल पड़े.
it was a running train और आप उस पे चढ़ गए. And we were continuing with that name because the desire was never to open up your own office. So we continued with that name for a while, and then one of our clients said, "Ke yaar, please don't do this. Change the name. You put your name there." यार वो थोड़ा सा कड़वा घूंट लिया हमने और we
कितने साल
had
बाद?
to change.
उनके जाने के कितने साल बाद?
Probably after 2 years or something, which was a long time. And मतलब it was like we weren't making money because a lot of clients walked out. तो खैर anyway, तो फिर नाम चेंज किया और खैर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता we started getting recognized, and there were a lot of competitions coming in, government competitions. And alhamdulillah, I could say that we won almost all of them. And I hate to say it, but it wasn't because of our architecture. It was the way we presented. Because
that's the education.
That's, you know how to make a beautiful model, a beautiful sketch, a beautiful this. And so, and everybody else was doing differently. अपना plan दिखा दिया, उसको watercolor कर दिया. And what we did and what we learned is, you have to make a model. And for yourself to do your study. And then we used to take pictures of those models, तो थोड़ा realistic आ जाता था, where nobody had ever seen कि a realistic building हम दिखा रहे हैं. तो खैर, that long story on why we became architects.
That's a good story, and it's interesting. मतलब, I assumed that you'd moved out of that firm and made your own, but it's interesting to see कि एक tragedy में वो छोड़ के चले गए मुल्क को. You're left behind with the team. अब उनकी भी salaries pay करनी है, clients को भी चलाना है, and then managing that at such a young age.
No,
I think
let me also add to this. There was the Al Futaims from Dubai. They, Mr. Majid Futaim came to Pakistan. अच्छा, ये रमज़ानों में half of Dubai used to be in Pakistan, mostly in Karachi.
अब उल्टा होता है.
अब उल्टा हो गया. So they used to come here and they used to enjoy Karachi. So Mr. Majid Futaim went and purchased an unfinished house that we had designed. He was one of the ministers in Bhutto's time. So he had left the country. So they found out who the architect was, and he called us and he said, I want you to finish this house. And khair, uski bhi kahani ek alag hai.
And this is that main Futam of Dubai.
Yeah.
जिसके सारे businesses हैं.
Yes.
वो कराची आते थे छुट्टी पे.
Karachi आ गए. So we went and finished that house, and we became very close. And he saw कि यार मेहनती हैं ये दोनों लड़के और honest हैं or whatever. Anyway, so we could walk into his house or his office anytime we wanted. So when we were finishing this house, he said, I'm trying to open up a real estate department, and I want both of you to come and run it. We said no. I'm really sorry, but
and he wanted to do this in Dubai.
Of course, भाई आप आ जाएं दुबई में and you have a totally free hand. So the first thing I think they did was the city center.
Right.
जो बना था. I mean, you went to Dubai because of the city center.
Right.
So we said no, and he said, why? He said, is there money? So he said, no. He said, look, I will pay you. Whatever you're making here, I'll pay you in dirhams, the same amount, meaning that number, and I will add a zero to it. So we said, nahi.
That's a good deal. अच्छा, उस जमाने में रेशियो क्या था, एक्सचेंज रेट क्या था दिरहम और जो आज 80 रुपए पे है, 90 रुपए पे है, बल्कि
यार 5-7 रुपए तो होगा ही नहीं.
5-7 रुपए होगा.
Must be something like that.
तो दिरहम उस वक्त 5 रुपए का होगा, अब 90 रुपए का है.
Something like that, yeah. So anyway, so he said, yaar, but then you have to help me. Tell me, who can I hire? So we knew that Pyarli wasn't doing anything in Canada. He was in Montreal, and we said, why don't you hire our boss? You know, who's your boss? He said, yeah. Anyway, so to cut the long story short, contacted Pyarali. There's that. No, I'm sorry. Pyarali was invited to Karachi to finish the Sheraton as the local architect.
Right.
So while he was here, he was just very upset because he was here like for 2 years and this owner didn't pay him a penny,
Right.
you know. And like he was from his community also. So Pyarali was very upset, you know. So we told Pyarali, why don't you do this? So he went there and he was hired by Majid Al-Fateh. And
Really?
he worked with him for almost 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
And really established the
foundation of Dubai, as they say, the city center area and all.
Yeah, well, उन्होंने उनका real estate department वो कर दिया,
Right.
set up. And then after 4 years or something, he left. So
इस पे आपने बड़ी you've mentioned his name quite a bit in your journey. What makes a good architect?
I'm glad you asked good architect and not a successful architect. Because there's a big difference.
One charges more money.
No, successful means that you're there just for the money.
Right, okay.
If that is what you're looking for as success.
तो यानी कि metric आपका is wealth creation और जो दूसरा good architect है, their metric is something else?
But Faizan, I think this would be true for any profession. A doctor, they could just be very money-minded. Lawyer, there's that, you know, हर एक की यही होती है.
लेकिन पैसा तो वही कमाते हैं ना जो अच्छा होते हैं, जो अच्छा काम करते हैं.
But yes and no. You could be... Let's not talk about that. Now, you said a good architect. A good architect is that... देखिए, this also is a little inborn, I would say. You have the knack to design, or you have the knack, and it's like you're married to the profession. You can't... there's no other life that you have. That you... Whatever time it takes, you work on it. And then, like, I know that many projects, what we did, that nakshe ban gaye, like we were doing some hospitals. Actually, the Murshid Hospital, which is on Hub River Road. And after it was a charitable or not-for-profit hospital, belonged to Jaffer Brothers. And so we asked them, I said that, what kind of hospital, how much money do you think you want to spend? Or what do you want out of the hospital? I'll never forget this phrase where they said, look, you can do anything you want, provided you can justify it to yourself that we need to do this. He said, don't ask us. जो भी आप अपने आप को justify कर सकते हैं आप बनाएं. That was okay. So it also put us in a spot that you go and make something and you don't have any approvals, and it's your neck, you know. So well, after most of the plans were done, Arshad came and said कि यार ये बहुत फैल गया ये नक्शा, because the land was big, and he said यार I want to replan it. इसमें इनके कोई 1 करोड़ रुपए बच जाएंगे. That was, I'm talking about 1988. तो 1 करोड़ रुपए was unheard of. 1 करोड़ या पता नहीं कितने में, it was a large chunk, almost like 25% of the cost of the hospital. So we went to Jaffer Brothers and spoke to Mr. Hamid Jaffer कि यार, really sorry, but I think we want to replan it. Now, I think that's being honest. That's being honest to your profession, honest to your client.
So even after you did all the work, कितने महीने का काम हुआ होगा उसमें?
At least 3 to 4 months.
और वो सारा काम अपने काम साइड पे कर रहे हैं. We're not going to charge more money or anything.
No. So, like, we never worked for money.
So you're saying that in a sense,
up to this day,
a good architect is someone who works to solve the problem and not to
solve the problem beautifully.
Beautifully.
That is the difference.
I like that. Solve the problem beautifully.
You see, we could be like in an architecture studio. You're given an exercise to do, say a bus stop. If there are 25 kids in the class, everybody has come up with a design of a bus stop.
Right.
They're all different. So the question is the same, but there are 25 answers to that. And then you have to see that which is the one that we need to make. Cost is important. Design has to be buildable. Permanence honi chahiye uski. Blah, 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 blah. So you actually do this thing. And so that is the difference between a good architect and a bad architect. And I mean, this is the case with, I would say, a lawyer, a doctor, and musician, singer. Now, I could be fantastic singer for you, but this other guy said, "No, yaar, I don't like his singing." You know. Artist, Picasso, yaar, he has a Picasso. I say, yaar, I hate that guy. You know, वो समझ नहीं आती यार क्या बनाता है वो. You know, so there could be. So unfortunately, you have to work for somebody else. You work for somebody else. It's his money that you're spending, and you better justify it. तो वो नहीं कि यार रात को मुझे ख्वाब आ गया तो मैंने ये बना दिया. No nonsense like that. It's practical. And the worst thing, Faizan, is that you are making something that you can't make it go away.
It's a part of the fabric and the landscape.
आपने इस दुनिया की इतनी ज़मीन ले ली, and you can't do anything about it for the next 50 or 100 years.
तो आपने जो बात की कि permanence का आपने जिक्र किया, आपने कुछ चीज़ों का जिक्र किया. You said something around cost, कि cost देखना है. You have to solve a problem. The permanence of that. और आपसे मेरी बात चल रही थी some time ago, and you mentioned in reference to the MCB tower in Karachi. And you talked about how a lot of the developments that are taking place in Karachi, they do not add to the skyline of the city. Why do you think other people don't think that? Because it's not कि materials में ज़्यादा खर्चा आएगा. आप वही material को सिर्फ shape अगर दूसरा दे दें, खूबसूरती की तरफ एक रुझान कर लें, what is it that's preventing someone else from creating beauty? क्योंकि cost में I don't think इतना कोई फ़र्क है.
Right. As far as the MCB tower was concerned, they उसकी like I keep on saying उसकी भी एक अलग कहानी थी. They asked us to make this building because they couldn't sell the land. They had the land, which before privatization, तो वो government का बैंक था, तो उन्होंने एक ज़मीन ले ली है. So one day on a flight, I met Mr. Mancha, and I was coming from Lahore or wherever to Karachi, and he asked me, he said, "Aren't you the architect?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "यार वो मेरी एक ज़मीन है, यार वो तू बिकवा दे मेरी यार ज़मीन." And I said, "I don't know." तो I said, "नहीं तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है? It's on I.A. Chandriga Road." कहने लगा, यार वो हमारा मसला है ना, वो तो हमें सारे वाइट पैसे चाहिए उसके और लोग जो हैं कोई वाइट नहीं देता पैसे. because we have to show it in the bank. So I said, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you make the building and sell the building? मैंने कहा वो बिक जाएगा एक फ्लोर करके या whatever. कहने लगा यार that's a very good idea. So and he said यार तू बना यार. So we started designing the building.
What year was this?
What year did Musharraf come in?
Early 2000s मैं सोच रहा था 2000 he was in 99 but the building I remember was early 2000s it came up 2003 02 or something
because Shaukat Aziz did the inauguration and the building took about 3 years so we designed the building and we took the model and everything to Lahore. He showed him, it was a Sunday or something, went to his house and he called one of his directors. अब वो जाके कुछ he was, कुछ खुसफुस कर रहे थे अपने डायरेक्टर से. We are sitting across and the guy started, shaking his head positively. कि भाई आप सही कह रहे हैं, whatever. We didn't know what he was talking about. कहने लगा यार शाहिद साहब ऐ तो नहीं बेचनी मुझे. ये तो इतनी खूबसूरत बनाई है यार, तो ये बनानी है ये. Okay. Now what happened that the entire building got made free.
How's that? The bank loaded money.
No, but what happened is that they did not have to sell anything in that building. But they had so many offices in Karachi. Like, for example, in this building, they'll have a floor,
And they owned all of those.
They owned all of those.
So they sold all of their...
They sold everything that they had, and I'm sure they made more money than the building.
And consolidated everything in one place.
Consolidated everything in that building.
And added to the skyline.
Yes. Now, we were very, very careful, especially Arshad. He said, Yaar, we can't do anything. Well, up to this date, we are very conscious when we design something that it can't be a fashion. Fashion grows old. It has to be something that is very settled,
So timeless. You focus on something that can be...
Timeless, yes. So it was a very small piece of plot. I think 2,000 gaz tha ya 2,500 gaz or something, And it was the first tall building coming up after the Habib Bank Plaza. When the Habib Bank Plaza came up, it was the tallest building of Asia, believe it or not.
And it's only 24 floors.
24 floors. So we started designing, and the elevation was very important. And we had done the building in Islamabad, in the blue area. Very nice, clean building. 4 stories. So that's how I think Mr. Mansha remembered us. So that is very permanent. Okay. Now that's like 35 years old or 40 years old, that building. And you go there and it still looks brand new. Even the finish outside looks brand new. In fact, I was very upset at them. I called them one day, Yaar, why the hell did you paint the building? And they said, we haven't painted the building. And it was still so new.
Right, acha.
After 30, 40 years.
Right.
Anyway, so you have to be very careful on the materials you use, inside and outside. And like I was saying, कि अगर आप कोई चीज़ गलत बना दें तो आपको भुगतना पड़ता है for the rest of the life of that project. And the rest of the world also, वो भी भुगतते हैं यार आपकी building.
देख के तंग आ जाएंगे.
Now, if you're in advertising, or if you're in a communication design, or if you made a movie, you don't have to show it here. But
that's true.
A building is something that किसी और का पैसा आपने लगाया है. You made something. He may or may not like it. But you've had it. Because if you haven't done a good job, you can't even tell people कि you've done this. And people get to know कि you've done this, and you are...
और पूरे शहर को नजर आता है.
You are
You're
history.
done.
History as a designer. So, but that was never... We never worried about that because you do what you think is right. So...
You even did Dolmen.
Yeah.
And it was
all of the Dolmen projects.
All of the Dolmen projects. Yeah. And the mall, I think, शायद सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल होगा because it replaced...
First mall.
It was the first mall. अच्छा, उस ज़मीन पे एक casino होता था. I don't know a lot of people who watch YouTube and they're a younger age group, but they will not remember that. But there was a beautiful casino building.
No, it wasn't beautiful.
It wasn't beautiful?
It was an eyesore.
Tell us more about that.
Very poorly made, very...
It had that funny roof. Yeah. It turned into a Sinbad when we were younger.
Well, we turned it into a Sinbad.
Because you turned it?
Yeah. Because when these guys came, the Dolmen people, they purchased that property. Because वो जब ऐसी खड़ा हुआ था, it was all मुख्तलिफ बैंक्स के लोन्स थे उसके ऊपर.
और कभी वो एज ए कैसीनो कभी नहीं खुला था.
Oh, let me tell you, it was ready like it could have opened in a week. That ready.
ये 70s की बात है.
70s की. We were doing, ये इनके कल्चर मिनिस्टर थे भुट्टो साहब के, प्यार अली अलाना. Okay. We were designing Pyar Ali Alana's house. Our Pyar Ali had designed it, and Arshad took over. In fact, Arshad had designed it. Pyar Ali was still around. So we started taking care of it. So I think this guy started liking us. So he said, yaar, I have to take you to the casino. I have to show you what it is. So one day we went to the casino. We went inside. All the gambling tables were there. Lights were on. Air conditioning was on. वो windows जहाँ से आप chips खरीदते हैं, वो अंदर chips भी रखे हुए थे उसके. And then there was a cabaret stage, and which was going up and down. कि भाई नीचे से the entire stage comes up and the cabaret girls are on it and this, that and whatever. And it was very proudly showing all that.
75, 76.
Yeah, must be 76 because I came back in 75. And uski crockery, cutlery, सब पे monogram लगा हुआ है, you know, उनका.
क्या नाम था casino का उस वक्त? Did they have a name?
Yeah, नहीं, वो उनकी कंपनी का नाम उस पर था.
अच्छा.
अभी खैर याद आ जाएगा. So उनका लोगो लगा हुआ था.
Right.
सारे उस पे चाइना वेयर पे, chandeliers, there's that, everything. And so this is another कहानी कि why it didn't start. Okay.
We've heard variations of that.
No, I will tell you the real variation, which is so जब इन्होंने खरीदा ये, so we started planning the rest of the plot. The plot is about 30, I think 30,000 गज का प्लॉट है ये, 30-35 इस वक्त जो है जहाँ ये डोलमन बना हुआ है.
Including the parking, excluding the parking.
वो जो साइड पे पार्किंग है ऑन द मैदान.
Right.
No,
अच्छा, that excluded.
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली पार्किंग बनाई थी कसिनो के लिए.
अच्छा.
So you're very lucky
you got the free
found that parking. So we said कि यार everything is ready, air conditioning है, बत्तियाँ हैं, सब कुछ है. Why don't you make this into a Sinbad?
Yeah.
Because we had done a Sinbad on Dolmen Center on Tariq Road.
Right, the top floor.
Top floor पे. The reason why we made the Sinbad on top floor, I mean, we were still very young, कि they came to us कि यार आप ये हमारे लिए मॉल बना दें. They had gone somewhere else, so इनका बेसमेंट बना हुआ था. And they said ग्राउंड फ्लोर पे तो सारी दुकानें बिकी हुई हैं हमारी, और फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे भी सारी दुकानें बिकी हुई.
ऊपर वाली नहीं बिक रही.
ऊपर वाली अभी नहीं बेची हमने. अच्छा, उस वक्त यही ट्रेंड था कि यू मेक अ शॉप एंड यू सेल इट. तो और कहने के यार फर्स्ट फ्लोर के ऊपर कोई दुकान नहीं खरीदता ही नहीं. फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे भी बड़ी मुश्किल में हमने औने पौने में बेची है दुकान. देयर वर नो एस्केलेटर्स आउट देयर. हाउ द हेल कुड एनीबॉडी क्लाइंब अप देयर. तो खैर फर्स्ट फ्लोर से वी स्टार्टेड. बिल्डिंग बनी नहीं थी अभी, बट वो जो दुकानें बेची हुई थी उनकी, तो वी हैड टू मेक द सेम प्लान, बट वी एडेड escalators from first floor upwards. And then we said, why don't you have an anchor up on the rooftop? So that people will go all the way up. And because you just have a lift, so people will have to walk down. So aapka third floor bhi occupied ho jayega. Yeah. So that's why Sinbad came up there. We went to Dubai.
Right.
They have a Sinbad out there.
Right.
So we made friends with that guy. Right. And so we made that. So after that, then we said, "Yaar, why don't we make this into a Sinbad?" So while the Sinbad was working, we started doing the plans, and
for a mall. At that time, you started doing the plans for a mall.
Yeah, but a very small one.
Not at this.
Half this size. So where the casino was, we were going to do some apartment blocks.
Okay.
And that's when we told the owners, yaar, why don't you rent the shops? Don't sell them. Usse fayda ye hota कि then you could get large retail outlets. Khadi has a 30,000 square foot outlet. How the hell can anybody buy that? That's like 4 to 5 billion rupees. So nobody who's doing business will go and
invest that money.
Invest और भाई वो तो फंस गए ना. अब आप कहें यार ये मेरी दुकान इस वैल्यू की है. It's not helping anybody.
Liquidate नहीं हो सकता है.
So वो चीज़ then इनका काम बंद हो गया बीच में. Because the economy had really gone down the drain.
This was probably 98.
Yeah, and nobody was buying anything. Nobody was. So then he said कि यार आप इसको बंद करें. वो खैर उसका कोई और वो था कि some not so good people came there and they wanted a percentage of their.
Right.
So इन्होंने कहा यार अब बंद कर दें काम ये. मुझे I don't want to pay anybody. So we started the Tariq Road Mall. अब Tariq Road की mall जो थी, nobody was coming there as a customer. अब दुकानें भी थोड़ी सी थी, कस्टमर भी नहीं आ रहा था. And then we had a lower floor there also that you must have seen above the basement. And so what we did, my family was running Dunkin' Donuts. So I went to my brother and I said, yaar, why don't you open up a Dunkin' Donut there? He said, कौन आएगा वहाँ? I said, look, I don't care यार. एक counter लगा लो वहाँ. So we put a counter on the lower area. But obviously the entire floor wouldn't have gone just because of Dunkin' Donuts. But yes, वो लोग हो सकता है दिन में 20 लोग चले जाते होंगे वहाँ, whatever. Then I came up with the idea that, yaar, why don't we have a shop like IKEA on the ground floor, on this lower floor. My brother-in-law had a textile factory and he used to make a lot of fabric for IKEA. So we started Habit.
That's how Habit started?
That's how Habit started.
Because of a need for Dolmen Mall?
Yeah. Dolmen didn't. It was me who said, यार Habit खोल लो यहाँ.
तो एक बिल्डिंग में आपने अपने एक बिजनेस भी स्टार्ट कर लिया और दूसरे भाई का भी फायदा कर दिया. But उन्होंने आपका किया.
हाँ.
क्योंकि वो ट्रैफिक आती डंकिन डोनट्स की वजह से.
You see, as an architect, as an interior designer, अभी जो आप बात कर रहे थे ना कि what's a good architect? Do you think they can never forget what we did? And I was not charging कि यार ये मेरा ज़बरदस्त आइडिया है तो आप मुझे इसके पैसे दें या जो भी है. When you have a project, it's your project. If it doesn't work, you are equally to blame. So you have to give your best. And same thing with Khadi. Every time we did a new Khadi, I told Shamoon, I said, yaar, you have to come up with a tagline on this. जिस रुख पे आप डिज़ाइनिंग करेंगे. And I said, I've come up with a tagline that you're making the ordinary extraordinary. आप धागा लेते हैं कॉटन का और आप उसको एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी कर देते हैं. And that's how I'm going to do your shops. I'll use ordinary cement. I'll use ordinary, broken tiles, this, that. And you make it extraordinary. So that's how we continued all the shops. So, खैर अल्लाह की तरफ से जो भी आइडियाज़ आए तो वो हो गया वो. And I mean, he still says कि यार, I owe a lot to you for Khadi's success. I don't feel that way. I think it was Allah's blessing और दुआएं उसके माँ बाप की दादा दादी की लगे होंगे that he was successful. It's and so अब ये डोलमेन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता फिर वो नीचे की दुकानें चलनी शुरू हो गई.
लेकिन मुझे ये बताएं, डोलमेन आपने दोबारा मेंशन किया, कैसीनो क्यों नहीं खुला? What's the real reason?
Well, it'll be a little political, okay? Now, in those days, Mr. Bhutto was, he openly said on TV that nobody can throw me out now. Like he's going to be there forever. And he said on, उस वक्त TV आ गया था, and he said like this, कि ये कुर्सी बहुत मजबूत है, ये कहीं नहीं जा रही. We were all watching TV, and my father said, कि अब ये गया. I said, यार ये तो कह रहा है मैं कहीं नहीं जाऊंगा, and whatever. He says, ये जो इसने बात की है, it's probably the worst thing he could do.
The beginning of the end.
Yeah. Now, इन्होंने रोटी कपड़ा मकान इन्होंने शुरू किया. So he got all the, he was the Pied Piper. कि पूरे मुल्क के जो गरीब लोग थे वो they really believed in that कि यार रोटी मिल जाएगी, कपड़ा मिल जाएगा, मकान मिल जाएगा. But then he realized, now this is my hypothesis, then he realized कि यार ये तो मेरे अंडर आ गए, but ये जितने अमीर लोग हैं और the people who have something, ये मुझे आंखें दिखा सकते हैं या ये आंखें मिला सकते हैं मेरे से. So one day he pulled the plug on all of them by nationalizing not only just the industry but the schools, banks, insurance companies, architecture. They started a company called PPAC, Pakistan Environmental and Planning something, and he started NASPAC, National Engineering Services. Contractors, they started National Construction, and every large project had to go there. So all the architects were doing, and these large construction companies, there was a McDonnell Leighton, there was a Gammon, there was a doing all these fantastic projects on a very, very international level. So they all went broke. Now, everything is going fine as far as the country is concerned, but downfall होनी शुरू हो गई उस वक्त. Because जब nationalize हुई चीज़ें तो the main owner is not there. उन्होंने उसके चपरासी को या कोई मैनेजर को कहा यार तू चला ये. तो अब वो अनफॉर्चुनेटली यही होता है कि जी काम तो हम ही करते हैं. लाइक माय जूनियर आर्किटेक्ट would say कि यार ये तो मैंने ही बनाया है सब ये. Yes, but no. It's a team effort. It can't be just कि आप करें या मैं करूं या whatever. I may give one idea which might be the winner, or he might have given one idea that was a winner for whatever. Now what happened is that there was a mullah movement that started. you know.
Around 76.
And Bhutto was not ready for it.
So you're saying that he controlled the masses, the awam, then he controlled the wealthy.
Everybody.
एक religious वाले रह गए थे जिनको control नहीं कर सकते.
नहीं, he didn't even think about it, यार. मुल्ला साला क्या करेगा यार ये? अभी he obviously couldn't nationalize masjids or whatever. अगर कर भी देते तो they were not talking about a masjid.
And he'd controlled the military at the time because prisoners of war की negotiation करके आए थे, तो he had them also, but the religious right wing उन्होंने मिस कर दी.
तो ये मुल्लाओं ने शुरू किया कि यार ये मुसलमान मुल्क नहीं है जी, you know. अब वो छोटी छोटी चीज़ें करते रहे, ये वो you know, when things started getting a little hot under the collar, तो इन्होंने जाके प्लेइंग कार्ड्स बैन कर दिए कि जी ये अब गैम्बलिंग नहीं होगी.
गवर्नमेंट ने प्लेइंग कार्ड्स बैन कर दी. तो ताश नहीं खेल सकते.
ताश भाई उसमें होती है ना, ब्रिज खेल रहे हैं कुछ और.
तो ब्रिज भी नहीं खेल सकते.
यार एवरीबॉडी हैड कार्ड्स यार. अब वो थोड़ी है कि वो हमेशा आप जाके चाय पी रहे हैं जी, चाय ख़त्म हो गई भाई. कार्ड्स लास्ट अ लॉन्ग टाइम. और कितने चाहिए होते हैं आपको कार्ड? right. आप यार यू गो एनीवेयर यू कैन ब्रिंग हाफ अ डजन पैक्स विथ यू. एनीवे, तो बहुत जब मसला हुआ तो इन्होंने फिर जुमे की छुट्टी कर दी कि नहीं जी ये तो दिस इज़ नॉट इनफ. अल्लाह मियाँ ने इनके हाथ से सब वो चीज़ें करवाई which were non-Islamic. Okay? Now there's another story why Pakistan was made. अल्लाह के हुक्म से बना है पाकिस्तान, और वो एक अलग कहानी है कि क्यों बना. But it was maybe the second area that was dedicated to Islam. Okay. गोरे आए, उन्होंने आपको सीधा कर दिया. अब you can either call them your Akha, or you could call them your teacher, you could call them your servants. Okay. We are sitting on a table, in an office that is like a Gora office. Okay. तो वो सब आपको सिखा विखा के वो चले गए वापस. आप लॉयर बन गए, आप उन्हीं की यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में गए, वापस आए, एंड यू बिकेम बेटर दैन दैम. डॉक्टर्स बेटर दैन दैम, इंजीनियर्स बेटर दैन दैम. ये सब जब हो गया तो आपको उन्होंने यहाँ बिठाया और घर चले गए. ये ऑन अ मैक्रो स्केल दैट्स व्हाट हैपेंड. एंड वी न्यू एवरीथिंग. भाई आपके डॉक्टर्स बिल्कुल इंटरनेशनल लेवल के, और हर चीज़ इंटरनेशनल लेवल, आपकी एयरलाइन दिस दैट व्हाटएवर. एनीवे, तो ये जब हुआ तो फिर इन्होंने क्लब्स में लिकर इन्होंने ख़त्म करी. ना जब लिकर ख़त्म करी तो देयर वाज अ डोमिनो इफेक्ट कि नाइट क्लब्स बंद हो गए. अब नाइट क्लब जब बंद हुए तो उनके बार बंद हो गए. जब लिकर आपकी अब वो हो गई
तो बार की क्या ज़रूरत है?
तो सारे बार्स बंद हो गए. मेट्रोपोल पे देयर वर 2 liquor stores.
अब तो यकीन भी नहीं आता है इसका. You can't imagine that.
Yeah. तो where my office is, where
you were telling us that
my receptionist,
the Central Hotel,
that was the bar. That was the bar where my entrance is. And when I started interning there, I used to pass by that. But it was like the run of the mill, you know. उस ज़माने में बिकॉज ये लिकर हर जगह होती थी और नाइट क्लब एंड ऑल दैट, a lot of the people never went to clubs. Like my family, it was banned. अगर कोई किसी की बेटी आप देख लें कि जी वहाँ वो क्लब से निकल रही है, ओह शी इज़ हिस्ट्री, कि यार वो तो क्लबों में जाती है वो, विच मेंट कि वहाँ शराब भी चलती है, वहाँ ये भी चलता है, वो भी चलता है, तो यार दिस इज़ नॉट ऑन. सो ये जब सब होना शुरू हुआ, देन केम द कैसीनो, द गैम्बलिंग. सो द कैसीनो हैड टू बी स्टॉप्ड.
तो ये बेसिकली जो रिलीजियस मूवमेंट थी, इसकी वजह से सारे जो तब्दीलियाँ आई थी, और इवेंचुअली बिकॉज ऑफ दैट वी एंडेड अप गेटिंग डोलमन मॉल. एंड इट्स वन ऑफ द really nice features of the city. लेकिन इसमें मैं एक चीज़ पूछना चाहूँगा. You've shared so much history and experience and working with the city on different projects. What is your guidance for those graduating out of Indus? जो आप वो भी आपका बना हुआ है और आपने पूरी एक बिल्डिंग रीलोकेट की थी, उसकी भी एक पूरी कहानी है.
जी.
But what is your guidance for graduates coming out today with this economic environment in front of us, wanting to do architecture in this country?
While you are young, देखो हर एक कोई चैम्पियन नहीं बनेगा. पाकिस्तान टीम में तो 13-14 ही होते हैं जी, पूरे मुल्क से. तो आप कहें जी मुझे क्रिकेटर बनना है, वो काफ़ी नहीं है भाई. ये कुछ ज़रूरी थोड़ी है कि आप पाकिस्तान टीम में होंगे. मतलब देयर इज़ अ 0.01% चांस.
So you have to be the best. You have to be the best at what you do. You have to put in the time or opportunity. Your opportunity is what you're saying.
The last word is you're either the best or you're like the rest. This you have to remember.
That's a great takeaway. I just wanted to say बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. आप आए, आपने टाइम दिया, आपसे बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला. 75 years history recap करना एक घंटे में is impossible. And जो आपके contributions रहे हैं शहर में, हमारे मुल्क में, I think they are inspirational. And I'm hoping कि the whole purpose of DigiTales is कि someone out there watches the content and we try to get people with a great story, with great contribution, people who have done something different. And अगर एक भी आप में से मुतासर हो के कुछ कर ले हम सब के लिए, I think this can be a much better country. And I think this is a story worth watching and worth being inspired from. I've taken a lot away from it and I should spend my time in social service and I will support you in your causes going forward. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into DigiTales. Stay tuned for more episodes next week. Bye-bye. If you have an interest in architecture and design, this book has been created, curated by our guest from today, Shahid Abdulla Saab, and it has all the great projects done by his firm, and some of them are icons of the city and icons of the country, some of the most beautiful architecture you've seen. Strongly recommend you get your hands on this book. There are only 700 copies available. If you would like to source this book, drop us a message in the comments and we'll help guide you on how you can get it. Thank you.